The ban. The chamber of the Galactic Council was never silent. It was a place of politics, trade deals, and endless arguments between star systems. But today, it was different. Today, there was shouting. The great round hall shook with voices from 100 worlds. Tall insectoid ambassadors slammed their armored claws against the floor. Aquatic envoys in floating water pods thrashed their fins. Even the cold-blooded reptilian delegates, who almost never showed emotion, hissed in open panic. On the giant display above the chamber, a single image glowed. A dark, sleek warship shaped like an arrowhead drifting in the cold of space. Its black hull reflected almost no light. Its edges seemed to blur into the void, and its glowing blue engines looked more like the eyes of a predator than any normal ship drive. The name beneath the image read, Oblivion, Human Vessel. "This ship must be banned," roared Chancellor Vaith, leader of the Triumph Alliance. His long silver robe swayed as he leaned forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "No fleet in the galaxy can stand against it. No defense can stop its weapon. If we do not act now, the balance of power will collapse." A thin, four-eyed delegate from the outer colonies leaned into his microphone. "You mean the humans will rule us all?" he said quietly. "You fear them because you cannot control them." The words were like a spark to dry fuel. Voices exploded again. The council's speaker slammed a glowing rod against the desk, demanding order. But the panic would not calm. Some called it a myth. Others called it a monster. But every leader in that room knew one thing. The Oblivion was real. And once, not long ago, it had appeared where no one expected. Far away, in a quiet, neutral sector, life had gone on as usual. Miners worked the asteroid belts. Traders moved between stations. Children played in the artificial parks. And then, the blockade came. 3 alien warfleets appeared without warning. Massive, spiked ships with blood-red lights surrounded the human colony world of Calder's Reach. Their message was simple: surrender the planet or be destroyed. For days, the humans had refused to speak. Their orbital defense platforms had been shattered in the first hour. Their militia ships were trapped inside the gravity well. No help was coming. Admiral Korth, commander of the enemy fleet, stood on his bridge and smiled. "Humans are stubborn," he said to his crew. "But when their air runs out, when their children cry for food, they will beg." It was then that the sensors screamed. A single ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. No escort, no fleet, just one. Its arrival did not shake the stars, but the sight of it shook every commander in the blockade. It was black as the void, with no markings except for a small silver emblem near its prow, the crest of old Earth. The hull looked smooth, but it was layered with something the scanners couldn't identify. No matter how the enemy tried to get a clear image, the ship seemed to blur, as if it was wrapped in shadows. Inside the flagship, Admiral Korth narrowed his eyes. "Identify it." The scan officer swallowed hard. "Sir, I think that's the Human Warship, the one from the Conquered War." Korth frowned. "That ship was destroyed." "Records say it was," the officer replied, "but the energy signature matches." "Exactly." Korth turned toward the main screen just as a low, vibrating hum rolled through the comms, a sound like an ancient beast waking up. The ship's blue engines flared brighter, and slowly, deliberately, it began to move forward. On Calder's Reach, people stood on rooftops and balconies, staring at the sky. Some thought they saw a dark shape gliding through the stars. Others whispered the name that had been forbidden to speak in many systems: Oblivion. It didn't hail, it didn't warn, it didn't threaten, it simply kept coming. The alien fleet opened fire first. Beams of plasma, railgun slugs, ion bursts, a wall of destruction rushed toward the lone ship. And then, something impossible happened. The weapons vanished, not exploded, not blocked, vanished, as if the space around the Oblivion swallowed them whole. On its bridge, Captain Elias Vorn sat in the command chair, His eyes were calm, but his hands were steady on the controls. "Hold course," he said softly. "All weapons locked," his tactical officer reported. "Shields at full integrity." Elias looked out at the massive fleet ahead. "Send them a message." The comm officer hesitated. "What should I say, sir?" Elias's gaze never left the stars. "Tell them. We don't start wars." The crew exchanged glances, waiting for the rest. "But," Elias said, his voice a cold whisper, "we end them." The Oblivion's forward weapon ports began to glow. And somewhere in the Galactic Council's chamber, far away in the present, an alien delegate slammed his hand on the desk and shouted, "You see? This is why it must be banned." The image of the ship on the giant screen seemed to stare back at them all, waiting. First contact. The blockade fleet did not wait for introductions. Within seconds of the Oblivion's arrival, a storm of fire filled space. The alien flagship's massive rail cannons sent hypersonic slugs the size of houses screaming toward the lone human ship. Plasma beams cut across the void, lighting it in brilliant streaks of orange and white. Dozens of guided missiles unfolded metallic fins as they streaked forward, each carrying enough force to tear a moon in half. And yet, none of it touched the Oblivion. From the outside, it looked as if reality itself bent around the black ship. Energy beams curled away as though space was being folded. Kinetic rounds simply vanished, erased mid-flight. Missiles broke apart in silence, crumbling to dust before they could even detonate. Inside the enemy fleet, panic spread fast. "Shields can't be that strong," one alien officer shouted over the comms. "They're not shields," another replied, his voice trembling. "That's something else." On the Oblivion's bridge, Captain Elias Vorn sat completely still, eyes fixed on the tactical display. The calmness in his voice was more unnerving to his crew than any raised command could have been. "Status," he said. "All systems nominal," replied the tactical officer, a young ensign who had never seen real battle until today. "Enemy fire ineffective. Sir, they're hitting us with everything." Elias leaned forward slightly. "Good, that means they're afraid." From Calder's Reach below, civilians watched the strange light show in the upper atmosphere. Through binoculars and station scopes, they saw the black ship cutting through fire as if walking through falling snow. No human vessel had ever been this unshakable. Somewhere deep in the colony, an old veteran recognized the silhouette and whispered to himself, "So, they brought her back." In the alien flagship, Admiral Korth was losing patience. "Signal every ship," he barked. "Focus fire on its engines. Disable it." The order went out, and hundreds of targeting systems locked on the glowing blue thrusters of the Oblivion. Again, a wall of fire filled the void, and again, it disappeared. "What is their hull made of?" Korth growled. The science officer's frill flattened in fear. "It's unknown. Every scan bounces off. It's like the ship isn't fully here." Korth froze. "Not fully here?" Back on the Oblivion, the comm officer looked at Elias. "Sir, enemy fleets are refusing hails. Should we broadcast?" Elias's eyes narrowed. "No. Let them wonder." He turned to his weapons officer. "Arm the Singularity Lance." The crew stiffened. Even among humans, the Singularity Lance was more legend than fact, a weapon whispered about in training halls but never officially admitted to exist. The weapons officer hesitated. "Sir, the treaties." Elias cut him off. "The treaties didn't protect Calder's Reach. They won't protect our people now. Arm it." The black ship slowed, rotating smoothly until its prow faced the heart of the alien blockade. The Lance's forward emitter, a long, narrow slit along the nose, began to glow with a deep, unnatural blue light, like the surface of a frozen ocean lit from within. "Charge complete in 30 seconds, the weapons officer reported. The alien sensors lit up with warnings. Fleet commanders shouted to scatter, but there was no place safe. The Oblivion didn't just aim at a single target, it locked onto the very fabric of space in front of it. On Calder's Reach, the sky rippled. Children cried as a low, vibrating hum rolled across the colony, rattling windows and making metal beams shiver. Old miners clutched their heads, feeling a strange pressure in their bones. Then came the light. A spear of blue shot forward, not as a beam but as a tearing wound in space itself. It touched the lead alien dreadnought. And in the blink of an eye, the massive ship was gone. No explosion, no wreckage, just nothing. The beam kept going, slicing through two more ships, then a cruiser, then a cluster of gunboats. All gone, erased as if they had never existed. When the light faded, a perfect line of emptiness cut through the blockade, stars visible again where once there had been warships. On the alien flagship, silence. Admiral Korth's mouth was dry. How many ships did we lose? The answer came as a whisper from his tactical officer. 18, in less than 4 seconds. On the Oblivion's bridge, Elias Vorn gave a single nod. Stand down weapons. Hold position. The comm officer asked, "Shall I send them a surrender demand?" Elias shook his head. No, they already know. He rose from the command chair and stepped toward the forward viewport, looking at the enemy fleet that remained. Now, he said quietly, let's see if they run. One by one, alien ships began to break formation. The mighty blockade crumbled as captains fled rather than face the warship again. Far away, in the Galactic Council's present-day meeting, the image of that moment played on a massive screen. The delegates watched in heavy silence as the alien fleet scattered in fear. This, Chancellor Vaith said, voice cold, is the reason the Oblivion must be outlawed. No single vessel should hold such power. The vote was already decided, the ban was coming, but the story had only just begun. The weapon no one should have. The galaxy had seen many weapons, planet-breaker missiles, star-forging engines, plagues born in secret labs. But the Singularity Lance was different. It didn't just destroy, it erased. There was no wreckage to study, no survivors to tell the tale. Whatever it touched ceased to exist, as if history itself had been rewritten to pretend it had never been there. And for the Galactic Council, that was the most terrifying thing of all. In the private records of the Council's war archives, a vault hidden beneath layers of political denials, there was a short, classified file. It had no title, only a symbol, the crest of Earth. Inside were grainy images, a few voice logs, and one chilling note in alien script. If the Oblivion ever returns, the balance of the galaxy will break. On the other side of space, the Oblivion floated in the shadow of Calder's Reach. Its black hull showed no scars from the battle, no smoke, no damage, as if the blockade had been nothing more than a training exercise. In the command center, Captain Elias Vorn stood with his hands clasped behind his back, staring at the tactical display. The last enemy ships had fled hours ago, but his expression had not softened. Status, he asked. Shields at full. No breach. Weapon core stable, the tactical officer replied. Then, after a pause, Sir, there's a message. Elias turned. From the Council? The officer nodded and opened the channel. A tall, thin alien appeared on the holoscreen, its crystalline skin shimmering under Council light. The voice was calm but carried a weight of authority. Captain Vorn of the Oblivion, under Article 7 of the Galactic Weaponry Treaty, your vessel is declared illegal. You are ordered to surrender the ship for dismantling. Failure to comply will result in immediate military action from all signatory worlds. The bridge was silent. The crew looked to their captain. Elias stepped forward until his face filled the alien's view. Tell your council, I remember the treaty. I also remember how you looked away when Calder's Reach was under siege. The alien's crystalline surface flickered, the council's equivalent of a nervous twitch. The law is clear. No ship may carry a weapon capable of altering the fabric of space itself. Elias's voice was low. And yet you let the invaders keep theirs. The connection cut before the alien could reply. In the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Mara Solis worked in near darkness, the hum of the Lance's core filling the room. She ran a hand along the glowing containment ring, feeling the faint vibration through her gloves. She knew the truth. The weapon wasn't just dangerous because of its firepower. It was dangerous because it was alive. The singularity. Lance's heart was a captured fragment of something far older than human civilization, something found drifting between galaxies, wrapped in frozen light. It didn't run on fuel. It didn't even obey normal physics. It listened, and sometimes it whispered back. Back on the bridge, the comm officer spoke quickly. Multiple fleets inbound, sir. Council ships. Human vessels under their flag, too. Looks like they're serious about dismantling us. Elias didn't look surprised. Then they've made their choice. The tactical officer hesitated. Sir, if they're all together, even the OBA. Livian can't. We don't need to fight them all, Elias said, his eyes narrowing. We just need to remind them why they fear us. He turned toward the forward viewport. Out in the black, distant flashes of light marked the arrival of dozens of ships, their drives burning like angry stars. The noose was tightening. In the council war room, Chancellor Vaith watched the fleet's live feed. He could see the black silhouette of the Oblivion waiting. Do not underestimate him, Vaith warned the admirals. Vorn is not a soldier. He's a survivor. That makes him dangerous. On the Oblivion's bridge, Elias gave the order. Bring the lance online. The crew froze. The lance had just been fired hours ago. Firing it again so soon was reckless, maybe even suicidal, but no one argued. The ship's prow began to glow, that deep, unnatural blue spreading across its shadowed hull. In the silence, every officer on the enemy fleets felt it, that faint, impossible pressure in their bones. Some called it gravity, others called it fear. The hunt. The council fleets closed in like a tightening net. From the outer edge of the system, heavy destroyers drifted into position, their gun ports glowing with power. Above and below, fast interceptors formed moving walls ready to slice through the void at the first sign of escape. Behind them, carriers opened their bays, launching wave after wave of drones. It wasn't just a blockade this time, it was a hunt. On the bridge of the Oblivion, Captain Elias Vorn studied the tactical map. Red markers bloomed all around their position. They're spreading out, the comm officer said. No way through without hitting someone. Elias didn't look worried. If anything, he looked patient. Admiral Sarath, commander of the Council Task Force, watched the black ship on her display. She's cornered, she told her officers. No hyperspace jump. We've seeded the sector with gravity mines. No stealth cloak. Our scanners are locked to its hull signature. They can't hide this time. Her second-in-command nodded. They'll have to fight their way out. Sarath smiled thinly. Good. That's what we want. But the Oblivion didn't move. The alien fleets expected panic, or at least preparation. Instead, the black ship floated in silence, like a deep-sea predator waiting for something to swim too close. Why aren't they firing? A council gunner muttered over the comm. No one had an answer. In the Oblivion's war room, Chief Engineer Mara stood beside Elias, pointing at the enemy formation. They've learned from Calder's Reach, no straight line of fire for the Lance. They've forced us into crossfire. Elias studied the map, then shook his head. They think the Lance is our only weapon worth fearing. They're wrong. He tapped a command into the console. Deep in the ship's belly, massive sealed bays began to open, revealing rows of long, spear-shaped devices. The tactical officer's eyes widened. Sir, you're deploying the phantom mines? Elias's voice was quiet. Every hunter fears one thing, prey that bites back. Out in space, the Oblivion released its hidden weapons. The phantom mines were invisible to most sensors, their hulls coated in chameleon plating. They drifted slowly, almost lazily, between the enemy ships until one passed within range. Then they struck. The first Council cruiser erupted in a silent burst of white light. A second later, a destroyer's reactor failed without warning. Chaos rippled through the fleet as captains shouted for evasive maneuvers. They're not mines, one panicked voice screamed over the comms. They're tracking us. From her flagship, Admiral Sarath gritted her teeth. Pull back. Regroup. But it was too late. The Oblivion moved. Like a shadow slipping between cracks of light, it threaded through the chaos it had created. Drone squadrons tried to intercept and vanished into sudden pockets of folded space. Enemy missiles flew, only to arc away at the last second, turning into harmless debris. It wasn't a battle anymore, it was a chase. Mara's voice came over the bridge speakers. "Gravity mines ahead, Captain." Elias didn't flinch. "Then let's turn them into an advantage." The ship's AI adjusted their course at impossible precision, weaving through the gravity trap so tightly that pursuing fighters were pulled in and torn apart. One Council battleship tried to follow, and was crushed into a ball of molten metal by a collapsing gravity well. Minutes later, the Oblivion broke free of the trap and slid into the shadow of a drifting asteroid field. Its black hull blended with the rock and ice until it seemed to vanish completely. On the Council's displays, the target was gone. "Find them!" Sarath snapped. Her sensor officer's voice shook. "Ma'am, I think they're inside the asteroid field, but—" He hesitated. "The readings say the field is moving." Sarath froze. "Moving? Asteroids don't—" And then she saw it. The whole field turning, the largest asteroid slowly unfolding its rocky shell to reveal smooth black plating. It wasn't an asteroid at all. It was part of the Oblivion. The ship had been hiding there the entire time, before the fleet even arrived. The hunt hadn't started when the Council trapped them. The hunt had started the moment the Oblivion entered the system. In the Council chamber far away, Chancellor Vaith slammed his fist against the desk. "Do you see now? This is why the ship must be erased from history." But even as he spoke, somewhere in the shadows of space, the Oblivion's engines flared, heading toward its next mission. The Star's Wrath. The trap had been clever. The Council had predicted the Oblivion's escape route and driven it toward an empty sector, or so they thought. Instead, the black ship emerged into the heart of a dying star system. A headburn, yet a red supergiant, its swollen surface boiling with storms of plasma, huge loops of fire reaching into space like the claws of some ancient beast. For weeks, the Oblivion had been a shadow in the void, striking where it chose, vanishing before the Council could trap it. But now, the Council had sent something different. Not a fleet, not a trap, a monster. When the Leviathan emerged from hyperspace, even the Oblivion's crew fell silent. It was the largest warship ever built, longer than a small moon, armored in plates the size of cities. Entire fleets could dock inside its hangars. Its engines burned like blue suns, casting long shadows across the emptiness. The two ships hung in the void, facing each other across thousands of kilometers of empty space. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. On the Oblivion's bridge, Captain Elias Vorn stood at the viewport, hands clasped behind his back. "They finally sent the only thing they believe can match us," he said quietly. Chief Engineer Mara's voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed her worry. "Sir, the Leviathan's shields are powered by a trinary fusion core. Even the lance might not punch through on the first shot." Elias nodded. "Which is why we won't start with the lance." Inside the Leviathan, Admiral Sarath walked the length of her command deck. Her voice carried across the massive space. "This is not a fleet battle. This is a duel. One ship against one ship. And we will prove that the Council's law is more powerful than human arrogance." Her officers cheered, but the sound was swallowed by the hum of the Leviathan's colossal power systems charging up. The first volley came from the Leviathan. 12 massive energy beams lanced out at once, each strong enough to melt a continent. The void lit up like a sunrise. The Oblivion rolled sharply, slipping between the beams, but one clipped its aft shields. The first time in months the black ship had taken a real hit. On the bridge, warning lights flashed red. "Shields at 94%, the tactical officer reported. Elias didn't react. "Return fire, pattern Delta 7. The Oblivion's counterattack wasn't a single devastating shot. It was dozens of precise surgical strikes. Railguns punched into sensor clusters. EMP torpedoes targeted the Leviathan's point defense grids. The goal wasn't to break through yet. It was to blind the giant. For a moment it worked. The Leviathan's firing slowed. But then, the massive warship unleashed its hidden weapon, the grav lance. From the Leviathan's nose, a long silver spear of energy erupted, not to destroy, but to pull. Space itself warped, dragging the Oblivion toward the larger ship like a fish caught on a line. The black ship's engines roared, straining against the pull. The hull groaned. Metal supports screamed. In engineering, Mara shouted over the alarms. "We can't break free without burning the slip core, and if we do," Elias's voice cut through, "do it." The Oblivion slip core activated in short, violent bursts, not enough to jump away but enough to twist its trajectory. Instead of being dragged into the Leviathan's forward guns, the black ship spun under its belly. Elias gave the order. "All batteries, fire upward." A rain of fire pounded the Leviathan's underbelly where its armor was thick but not impenetrable. One lucky rail slug punched through, venting fire and debris into space. The Leviathan's counterstrike was brutal. Heavy plasma bolts slammed into the Oblivion's starboard flank, making the black ship shudder. "Shields at 50%, the tactical officer called out. "We can't take another broadside like that." Elias's eyes narrowed. "Then we end this." He turned to Mara. "Overclock the lance, past safe limits." Her hands froze over the controls. "That could tear the core apart." Elias's tone was steady. "It will, if we miss." The Oblivion pulled back, creating distance. The prow of the ship began to glow, deeper and brighter than ever before, the light bending around it as the Singularity lance charged beyond design limits. The hum in the ship became a low, vibrating growl. On the Leviathan's bridge, Sarath realized what was coming. "All shields forward, now!" The Oblivion fired. The lance tore through the void. Not a beam, but a wound in space itself. It smashed into the Leviathan's forward shields, shattering them like glass. The beam kept going, cutting deep into the warship's hull, leaving a smoking scar hundreds of meters long. The Leviathan didn't fall, but it staggered. On the Oblivion's bridge, Elias gave a final command. "Jump us! Now!" The black ship vanished into slipspace before the Leviathan could recover, leaving the Council's mightiest warship crippled and drifting. Admiral Sarath gripped the railing, staring at the empty void. She didn't feel anger. She felt something worse. Fear. The last command. The Leviathan had been left crippled, drifting among shattered wreckage. The Council was humiliated, but they were not finished. In a matter of days, a coalition fleet unlike any in history assembled, hundreds of ships from dozens of species, united by one goal: end the Oblivion forever. In the shadows of deep space, the Oblivion waited. Its black hull was scarred now. The battle with the Leviathan had taken its toll. Microfractures ran along the armor, some weapon bays were sealed shut, and the shields could no longer hold at full power. The crew knew what was coming. They had seen the Council's broadcasts. This would not be another ambush, another escape, another clever maneuver. This would be the last fight. In the war room, Chief Engineer Mara Solis stood opposite Captain Elias Vorn. "Sir, the core's damage is too severe. We can maybe fire the lance once more, and then the ship will tear itself apart." Elias didn't answer at first. He just stared at the star map. The Council fleet, moving like a wall of fire through the void. Finally, he said, "Then I'll make that one shot count." The fleet arrived like a storm. Hundreds of ships formed a tightening sphere around the lone human vessel. Energy beams lit the darkness. Rail slugs screamed through the void. Missiles bloomed in white fire. The Oblivion returned fire, sharp, precise, punishing. But the odds were overwhelming. Shields flickered, armor plates buckled. Mara's voice came through the comms. "We're burning out, Captain. We can't hold." Elias stood on the bridge, eyes calm. "Prepare the last command." The crew froze. The last command was not in any manual. It was not an official protocol. It was a promise, whispered among the first crew of the Oblivion. If the ship was ever to be taken, it would never be taken alive. The core room went into lockdown. The ship's AI began rerouting every scrap of energy toward the Singularity Lance. The lights dimmed. The hum became a deep, almost living heartbeat. The comm channel lit up with the voice of Chancellor Vaith himself. "Captain Vorn, this is your only chance. Power down your weapons. Surrender the ship. Your crew will be spared." Elias stepped forward, close enough for his face to fill the hollow screen. His voice was quiet, but every word carried. "You fear this ship because of its weapon, but you misunderstand. The Oblivion is not dangerous because of the lance. It is dangerous because of the people who stand on it, because we fight when others hide, because we remember when others forget." The Chancellor's expression hardened. "You cannot win." Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but I can choose how this ends." He turned to Mara. "Fire on my mark." The fleet closed in. Dozens of targeting locks painted the Oblivion. A final broadside struck, ripping away part of the porthole. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Elias stood straight, looking out at the endless stars. Mark. The Singularity Lance fire. Brighter, hotter, louder than ever before. But this time, it wasn't aimed at a ship. It was aimed at the very fabric of space between the fleets. The beam ripped reality open. A swirling vortex bloomed, pulling everything toward it. Ships, debris, even light itself. Council vessels broke formation in panic. Some were swallowed whole, others barely escaped, their hulls scorched. In the center of the storm, the Oblivion held position, its hull glowing from within as the core reached critical. On the bridge, Elias keyed a final transmission to all channels. "This is why you fear us. Not because we can destroy you, but because we choose not to." He turned, met Mara's eyes, and gave a single nod. The core collapsed. The Oblivion vanished in a burst of light, not an explosion, but a silent wave that swept through the battlefield, disabling every ship within range. And then, nothing. The black ship was gone. Weeks later, in the farthest reaches of uncharted space, traders told whispers of a shadow-shaped vessel gliding through the void. It never attacked, it never hailed, but its blue engines would flare for a moment, and then it would disappear. Some said it was gone forever, others swore it was waiting. And in the Galactic Council, the law still stood. The Oblivion, human vessel, is forbidden in all star systems. On sight, it is to be avoided, at all costs.